If you clicked on this video because you want to get faster results in your weight loss, then you are not alone. There's nothing wrong with you and you are not impatient. Well, maybe you are, but every single person on the planet wants to have fast results. It's not a bad thing. We're just hardwired to do it. So the only two ways to get faster results in your fat loss, and they are get more into a calorie deficit with your day-to-day meals. A bigger calorie deficit means that you're going to be losing weight faster because your body is going to be dipping more into those stored fat cells. But the second way is that you have to increase your overall calorie deficit by getting more consistent in your day-to-day meals and your splurges. You got to cut out those splurges. You got to cut out those weekend binges. You got to cut out that dieting on 1500 calories for 2 weeks and then going back and gaining all the weight that you lost back. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to share with you the 3 things that helped me to lose 40 pounds that lowered my overall calories on a day-to-day basis and got me losing fat, but also the things that helped me to be more consistent with my diet so that I could do it for a long enough timeline and actually maintain my weight loss as well. Not only that, I'm going to put this all together in a bit of a meal plan to show you how you can easily build an entire day that is going to be great for fat loss because it gets you into a calorie deficit, but also very filling and satisfying, so it's easy to adhere to. And I'm going to propose to you that speed means absolutely nothing if you do not finish the race. It doesn't matter how quickly you lose weight in the first 2 weeks if you are not where you want to be a year from now. This is just like the story of the tortoise versus the hare, and everyone thinks that the moral of the story is that slow and steady wins the race, but that is just not the case. The reason that the tortoise wins is because he makes consistent progress towards the goal, whereas the hare makes fast progress and then he stalls. We don't want to be like the hare. We don't want to stall our progress because it's not actually faster to do so. It's much, much slower. And it's more painful and annoying, and you'll do that over and over again for the rest of your life. We don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. I'm sure you don't either. So here are the 3 ways to increase that calorie deficit while also increasing your consistency. Number 1 is to choose low calorie dense foods as the majority of your diet. These are things like vegetables at 100 calories per pound. They're the lowest calorie dense food on the planet. Things like potatoes, rice, beans. If you have a very simple filter for yourself where the majority of your meals, and if you're in a fat loss phase, it really should be most of your meals and most of your diet is things that you could pick from the ground and instantly eat. If you're not a germ-phobic person, I'm definitely not. Like, I will eat like a dirty strawberry. I do not care. I do not wash things. That's just me, grotty, whatever. Yeah, I eat with my mouth full. I've been told that many, many times. If the only processing that you need in order to eat something is that you cook it, cut it, or you peel it, or you wash it, then most likely it's going to be better for fat loss. The exception to this is things like nuts, because nuts are inherently much, much higher in calories because they are higher in fat content. So they pack a big calorie punch for a small amount of food. I'm not saying don't eat nuts, but eat them in a small quantity and have the majority of your plate be foods that are under 600 calories per pound. There's lots of studies that look at this. People eating what's called ad libitum, which is as much food as they want, and simply by increasing the amount of low calorie food and decreasing the amount of high calorie food, not even counting calories or changing quantities or anything like that, they're actually able to eat intuitively as much as they want and still get into that calorie deficit. Number 2 is to choose mostly lower fat foods, not because fats are bad for you, not because you have to cut out any fats in your diet. I'm not saying that. The reason that it's easier to get into a calorie deficit with more lower fat foods is because they're simply lower in calories. 1 gram of carbohydrates or protein is going to be 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is going to be 9 calories, so it just packs a bigger punch. You definitely don't need to give up fats entirely. In fact, it's not a healthy thing for you to do, but you want to be very cautious in that you can easily add way more calories than you need to get into a calorie deficit when you're adding a lot of fatty elements. If you are mostly eating whole foods, like I talked about, then it's going to be much easier to stay under that calorie radar of where you need to be for fat loss. If you want to consistently get into a calorie deficit and not have to count calories, then aim for about like a tablespoon of fats at each of your meals and try not to go above that. And I'm not talking about oil because oil is a highly processed food. For your fat sources, choose avocado, choose nuts and seeds. They are lower in calorie density than oil, and they are genuinely good for you because they are whole foods. They haven't had that refining process where the fiber in the water is removed like oil has. And I know there's going to be people in the comments here that are going to say, well, what about keto? How does keto work? Why are people seeing success? Or I saw success on the keto diet. And that's great. Like, amazing for you that you saw success in the keto diet. It's not rocket science. People see success on any diet due to a calorie deficit. If you cut out entire food groups, like it's not eating processed food, which is what I'm telling you to do, it is easier to lose weight because you no longer have this wide variety of high calorie dense foods. This is the science, people. Listen up. If you tell someone to stop eating carbohydrates and potatoes and bread, they are going to most likely eat less calories overall because their choices become reduced. It's not because the keto diet is magic. It's not because a high carb diet is magic. People lose weight in a calorie deficit. All diets work this way. This is just the easiest way to do that because you can eat as much as you want and feel full and satisfied, and you're getting the micronutrients you need to do this long term. All roads lead to Rome when it comes to how diets actually work, but they're not all as equally easy to travel and lead to long-term results if they are not able to be adhered to long-term. And we're talking about speed here, and a big part of speed is just long-term adherence, because otherwise you just never get to the goal or you never maintain it. And that's not quick. It's not quick to never get to your goal. It's slow. And number 3 is to choose high satiety foods. Potatoes have the highest satiety index of all time, of all foods. What does satiety mean? Satiety is a very fancy way of saying I'm so full and stuffed and satisfied that I don't want to eat anything else. It's a really good thing because it means that you are going to reduce your cravings and you're going to be able to get satisfied and not be tempted. So we're talking again about adherence. Water helps adherence because it helps to fill up your stomach. Things that inherently help adherence in satiety are things that have a lot of fiber and they have a lot of water because they create bulk in your stomach. The biggest factor when it comes to satiety is actual volume. So if you want to feel like it's easier to stick to your diet and therefore do stick to your diet, you want to be eating foods where you can eat enough where you just don't feel like you're being tortured or hungry all the time. Hunger is the thing that you really want to avoid as much as possible in a dieting phase because it does make adherence very, very difficult, and you can avoid it using this method. I just want to say this for anyone who feels like a failure because they struggle to stay consistent, or they see someone online who's eating tiny bird-like portions and they're like, well, I just eat like a horse and then I go and binge on donuts and I'll have like my lunch and then I'll forget I have lunch and then I'll eat more lunch. If that's you, then you're not alone. It's a normal human thing to do and you don't need to fix it. You really just need to eat the kind of volumes that you were designed to eat, which is fill out your stomach a little bit, kind of like blowing into a balloon, and it gets fuller and fuller so that the stretch receptors in your stomach actually register that you don't need to be ravenously hungry anymore. And spoiler alert, you cannot just do this with vegetables, even though they are the lowest calorie foods on the planet, because vegetables are essentially water. This is why you need starches like potatoes, like rice, like beans that have more carbohydrates than just water so that you get the bulk and the fiber and you get all of that goodness. How scientific is that? All of that goodness that is going to help you to feel full and satisfied. Let's put this all together in a bit of a meal plan. I'm going to show you what I eat in order to be in a calorie deficit, and I'm currently on a cut, which means that I am in a fat loss phase right now. I am currently losing weight. I am about 4 pounds down from my starting weight when I first started to get into my fat loss. And I'm not even like reducing my calories all that much. I'm still eating around 1900 calories a day, but my adherence is very, very high. And I know for a lot of people, you think that that's a lot. The average person consumes over 3000 calories. This is based on science. This is based on studies. This is based on observable facts. We are all consuming more calories than we actually think we are because our adherence is typically not good. You're not counting the chips. You're not counting the alcohol. You're not counting the binge and then actually factoring that in as an average. You might be eating 1200 calories a day when you count. Totally possible. Are you eating 1200 calories as an average after all the binges? If you're not losing weight, probably not. 1800, 1900 calories for most women is going to be totally adequate to get you into a slight calorie deficit that you will actually be able to maintain. You don't have to count, you just need to follow these principles. Let's get into it. All right, first things first, we're going to make some overnight oats. This is nothing new. I've made this every single day for, I won't even say like the last couple of months. I make the same thing. My new hack though is that I will make 2 batches of overnight oats and I will do it every 2 days, and my life is so much easier. My adherence is so much better because I don't have to do this every day. So we're going to be using quick oats in this. The reason I like quick oats is that you don't actually have to soak them for very long. So you can do this and then eat it within about 10 minutes, which I will sometimes do. Now, I am also going to be using a bit of protein powder, and I want to put a disclaimer on this. You do not need protein powder if you are trying to lose weight. In fact, you want to be focusing on getting enough of the lowest calorie foods that you can. And I didn't have this during my fat loss phase. I didn't have this during the time that I lost 40 pounds. I believe this is a distraction for most people. There's a lot of marketing around protein powder. However, if you have only like 5-10 pounds to lose and you are very, very intentionally in a bulking stage, or if you're very, very intentionally actively trying to build muscle and you go to the gym so flipping consistently, like I do, and that's the stage that I'm in, easier to do that if you have more protein in your diet. Not necessary, but I'm going to put it in there. This is the one that I like, macro like. And I'm going to weigh and measure everything so that you can see what the calories are. And I do this every single time as well. Not because it's necessary, just because it is helpful for me at the stage that I am at. I love this phrase, model the climb, not the rise. Or model the rise, not the climb, not the end, something like that. And it's essentially do the things that someone did on the way to their journey that got them to the top, not just the things that they do when they're there, because it is a different stage. So do the things that I tell you to do. You don't have to do every single thing that you see an influencer with a six-pack do, okay? That's me, pretend to have a six-pack. 80 grams of oats, an American cup, scoop of this. What I would use instead is a banana if you are not using a protein powder, or about a tablespoon of ground flax. I'm also going to do this for my next one as well, and I'm just going to do this all at the same time because it just makes my life a million times easier. And we're going to go 200 mils of, or 200 grams or mils of a soy milk. Use soy because it's better for you than oat or almond. Soy is good for you. It's good for your hormones, okay? I'm gonna use some raspberries. This is my absolute favorite. And I do 150 grams. And I don't have enough. So I'm gonna add some cherries. Rip into it like a rat. Throw it in there. Ah! There we go, 150 grams. This one, that's about right. And then we're just gonna put in as much water as what we think it will need. I do it to about there. This is kind of the consistency you want. And I'll show you what it looks like in the morning. There we go, beautiful. You could put fresh berries as well if you are rich or you live in a place where there is fresh berries. Yum. Sold already. Alrighty, so here we have our 2 overnight oats. It took us like 5 minutes to make. Very, very simple. All I do is I just change out whatever fruit. This comes in at about 660 calories, which is great for a weight loss zone because we're going to be having foods that help us to stay adherent. And if you have more of a fiber-filled breakfast with the flax and the oats is helping you to do that, and the fruits as well, then you're going to be able to be more consistent for the rest of your day. There's a lot of science behind this. This is called preloading. This is called front loading your calories, and it really does work. Not only that, when you have more calories in the morning, you're more than you do in the rest of the day. Even for the same amount of calories, you lose more weight. Like there's a study that contrasts exactly the same amount of calories where people would eat the majority of those at night versus the majority of those in the morning. And the people who ate the majority of their calories in the morning lost double the weight that other people did. So there's other mechanisms going on. A calorie deficit is still a calorie deficit, but then there's different things that influence how calories are burned and how calories are stored. So timing when it comes to breakfast is actually one of the ones that is quite important. Get in there. Yee. Lunch I'm going to overly simplify simply because this is what I do. It just makes life very, very easy, but I've also showed a ton of recipes on my channel before and what I do for lunches and making amazing component bowls. At this point, for me, I'm very much leaning into convenience because we think that we want to eat a lot of processed food because it tastes good, and that's accurate. But we also gravitate towards that food because of how flippin' simple and easy it is. I don't know many people who are going to cook a donut and then deep fry it from scratch. But if you go and you get takeout or you go and you get a donut, part of the pleasure of that is actually doing it. So our brains are always trying to make this judgment between how easy something is and whether it's worth doing. So the thing I'm gonna do is very, very easy and probably boring to most people, but it's extremely easy. I'm gonna do some sweet potato, which I have already prepped earlier, but I'm just gonna make another batch right now. And then I'm going to do my favorite tofu, which I just constantly have in the fridge ready to go. Just a little bit of water. 300 grams. I have some sweet potato that I have prepared earlier. So I just cook up, it's got broccoli on it. Just cook up like this, like Japanese sweet potato. I got two, like this stuff's really, really filling. I actually find it more filling than regular sweet potato. And I have a recipe actually, which you can go and check out here, I don't even know. And it's how I make my perfect sweet potato. So hack for me, always just have it in my fridge, ready to go. Always have the tofu. I can assemble a meal so quick. Okay, let's have a look. I just do it like this. It's still pretty soft. I use a firm tofu, but it's delish. I'm gonna weigh and measure everything for your benefit. I'm going to use some store-bought hummus, and I just use a tablespoon of that. Mix this with like a little bit of lemon juice. Like, I gotta be honest with you, I don't even really do this very often because I just eat so simple at this point, but I get that people like dressing. I'm going to use the dressing, pour that all over the top. I'm also going to just shake on some salt and pepper. Yosh. Finally, just like a little bit of bagel seasoning, just a very, very small amount. There we have it. So now this meal is huge, very easy because I already had those core ingredients. And then in terms of calories and macros, whatever you want to call them, it comes out at 540. So it's 240 grams of that sweet potato in there. We've got 100 grams of tofu. We've got 225 grams of broccoli. We've got some lettuce. We've got everything bagel seasoning. I didn't add the lemon. This is going to add like 5 calories. As you can see, like you can eat like a lot of food. A lot of this is lettuce on the plate, but this is going to be a very, very filling and satisfying meal. And 540 calories, contrary to popular belief, is actually an amazing range for weight loss. So typically between 500 and 600 is the sweet spot in order to get into a calorie deficit when all your meals are kind of in that similar range. Don't need to count, just need to use these same kind of frameworks. I outline this framework in my Kickstarter course. It goes very in depth about how to actually build a weight loss bowl, but I've already talked a little bit about choosing whole foods, all of those kind of things. Low fat, all of that. Actually pretty stinking good. This is also 28 grams of protein without even really trying. Only put 1/4 of a packet in there of that tofu. So you could cook up 1 packet and you could have that last you 4 lunches, or put some of your dinner as well. Day 2, oats are ready. So freaking good. Like, I'm not even kidding. I just don't get sick of this combo. Every single day, I switch up the berries, I switch up the fruit, and then get tired of it. So, for the win. All right, so the last thing that we're gonna do is a bit of a fried rice. This is just easy if you have like a bit of rice up in the freezer, or you can always get that frozen rice from like Whole Foods. We're gonna use this and add a ton of veggies. I'm starting with 2 cups of cooked rice, which if I was doing just for me, I'd probably split over at least like 4 meals. But for a family, this is probably gonna do all of us. And you can see the very first thing I'm gonna do is just grab so many veggies. I've got broccoli, capsicum, carrot, celery, and just cook with as many veggies as I can. We'll first cook up some tofu, and we'll do it in exactly the same manner that we just did. See, there's a lot of veggies here, like a lot. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just like put this into another container and do my rice. And I wouldn't normally do this, but it's just gonna make it like a little bit crispier. This is kind of cooked up a little bit, and I'm just gonna add the veggies back in. So many veg. My pineapple, and I also added some green peas. Okay, how freaking good does this look? I measured out 700 grams which is actually a lot of food. I'm gonna put a bit of coriander on top. Like, you would not be hungry if you're eating this. And if you would, like if you eat like huge massive volumes of food, then you could always add a side of broccoli as well. I'm not gonna add that because this has so many vegetables in it. Season to taste, please, but let's give it a bit of a taste test. Get some of that pineapple. That's unreal. Once you get into the habit of eating a load of veggies, like, you never go back because it's just so freaking good. All right, moment of truth. Let's look at the calories. Let's look at the macros. Okay, so we've got 660 calories for breakfast. For lunch, we had 500 and just under 540. And then for dinner, we had the same. Works out to over 100 grams of protein without even really trying, just because we've got a lot of tofu, some legumes and things in there. And we're sitting at 1740 calories, which is in a great weight loss zone. And for me, I actually even have like a bit more of this. Like, that for me is enough to have like a coffee in there with some soy milk, and like I'll do like a very small, like maybe 200 calorie ish dessert in there. And I don't snack personally, but if you were going to snack, you could have slightly less of these things or add more veggies, whatever's going to work for you personally. But as you can see, very, very filling meals, very, very easy to stay consistent, and you just modify things. And this is truly how you speed up fat loss, because you can stay more adherent and you're eating meals that are low in calories. And 1700 calories, even 1800 calories for most people is an amazing zone for fat loss. As I said in the beginning of the video, the biggest thing that holds people back is their adherence. We're all eating more calories than we think we are because our adherence is not amazing. So eat like this, and overall your calorie deficit will be greater. You'll be in more of one than if you were to have lower calorie days, but then have those big swings and those big binges. As you can see, it's super easy to add a lot of food, lower the calorie density, feel full and satisfied, which is going to increase your adherence massively, which is going to speed up fat loss simply by using these principles that I've talked about. This is how I lost 40 pounds, not by following any kind of rules, but really understanding these core principles and just adding so many vegetables, limiting oil, actually eliminating it, limiting some of those high calorie foods, still eating some of my favorite elements like tofu and fried rice, and just making that work for the lifestyle that I have and getting into a calorie deficit. Don't forget to check out that Kickstarter free mini course if you want to know the exact 4-step framework that I use to build weight loss meals. And if you like this, then please consider subscribing and let me know in the comments. Are you currently on a fat loss journey? Are you wanting to speed up your process? Do you struggle with adherence? I'd love to hear. All right, I'll see you next week for another video. Bye.